Hey ladies, welcome to another Talk About It Tuesday. I'm excited to be here with you this morning. If you are joining live or the replay, wave hello, drop a little wave emoji in the comments. That way we can say hello back and welcome you to the conversation and just know that you're here. So the Lord has had me thinking a lot about the new things that I need to release from the past, new things that he is calling me into. So I thought that, especially given our focus on renewal this month, I thought I would just share a little bit on that. But first, I wonder if you drop in the comments, the reference to the Kung Fu death grip. Do you know what movie that's from? If you do, take a guess, drop it in the comments. I better tell you now because I might forget at the end to tell you. So that is from the movie Meet the Parents, when the character Greg is at the airport and he's got the suitcase and he's clinging. He's like, actually, I think the line is more like, you have to pry this, you'll have to pry the suitcase from my Kung Fu grip that he had on it. But I love that movie. It's, funny. Anyway, I don't know, just been reflecting how, especially for most of my life, I would really struggle with transition and just wanting to cling to the things that were that were familiar. And that I realize a pattern that God has with me is that things that happen abruptly can really throw my system off. So God is so gracious. He knows that about me. So he knows that I need a little time to kind of get up to speed with a transition that's going to happen. But as I've reflected back in different areas of my life, I realize sometimes I'm a little slow on the uptake and I'm still clinging to old things when I need to be more open-handed with what he might be calling me into. And if this is resonating with you, drop some likes or hearts in the comments, or just drop resonating in the comments as well. And in one sense, it is natural because the way that God designed a part of our brain that is for our survival, it craves what is known and constant, because it knows whether that known and constant is helpful or harmful. That it's I know I am surviving this and therefore let's keep doing it, because if we make a change, we don't know if we're going to survive it. That's kind of the dialogue that's going on in your brain. So yes, it's completely common and natural for us to get nervous about change, and it's literally the fear of the unknown is a thing. That's why even fear of success is a thing, which to me has always seemed why would I be afraid of success, the thing that I want? But it's because it's unknown. So all that. So if you also experience challenge with transitions from going into the unknown, either completely or even partially, just know that you're not alone in that. That again, it's part of just our literal physiological makeup. And psychological makeup as well. But yet, especially as believers, we know who is leading us, right? We know who is leading us into the new unknown. It's the Lord. And we know that he is trustworthy and he is faithful. And one of the stories from scripture that has always been meaningful to me is in the Old Testament, the wilderness experience and what God does with the Israelites, through Exodus, through Deuteronomy. I always love going back to those parts of the Old Testament, because it's just so rich with, especially analogies for even modern day life. And one of the things that I always kind of laugh at, but know that I do myself, is when the Israelites are in the desert and they're kind of bemoaning again the perceived lack of provision of the Lord, and they're you just led us here to die, we're just gonna die, we want to go back to Egypt, oh, the cucumbers, oh, the leeks, all of that. They're bemoaning their being in the desert where God has been providing the manna, and they want to go back to what they knew, even though it was in slavery. And I know for myself, there's times where I do that too. I'm oh, I want to go back to the old, except for God has the promised land waiting for us, ahead of us. And so as we think about, I'm going to equate this to sleep because we're talking about sleep here. this week. And I know one of the things, like, especially as moms, that we can struggle with is transitions in the seasons that naturally come up with motherhood, right? Like as our children grow and change. So I was doing a little bit reflecting on that, of like seasons of motherhood and things that I felt, again, I was being a little bit slow on the uptake on realizing, wait, I'm in a new season and I need to do something different. Okay. Because this does tie into our health. Whenever we want to, there are times where we need to adjust and course correct because something that was working for us in the past is no longer working for us in the current time. So we need to be flexible and put new things in place to work with that current season. So let me give a little bit more concrete examples of what this looks like related to sleep, since we are in renewal and sleep. So thinking about like when my children were, well, for sure you expect the sleep deprivation, right? Kind of when your child is a baby until they start sleeping through the night. So the period that I was thinking more of is how, when I think I had my third child. So for those of you that are newer to me, I have 4. And the first 3 are, I had them within approximately 3 years apart. I had like, the first 2 are 20 months apart, the second 2 are 18 months apart. And so after I had my third child, like up to that point, I love sleep and my body does better with sleep. So I would make a point of trying to nap in the afternoons when my 2 older ones were napping. And then it got to a point where my son, who at that point was the middle, where he would not nap and he kept getting up. So it's like, what it would look like is I would put the 2 oldest down and feel like I had them settled. And then I would put the baby down and then I would try to lie down myself. And ultimately I would just be falling asleep. And then my middle son, the oldest of the boys, would get up and I'd wake up. And so this kept happening over and over again. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to give up my nap because this isn't working anymore. So I had to figure something else. But it took a while before I was like, oh, I have to give up my nap. And then fast forward through the years. So now, the most recent one that was harder for me to adjust to, and even now, I still have to play with this a little bit, but so now 4 kids, and my oldest is 18 and a half and the youngest is 12. So we're fully in that teenage stage. And if you have teenagers, you'll know this. If you don't have teenagers, giving you a little preview about what's to come. But no longer is the early bedtime a thing. It's like whenever they pretty much feel like going to bed. I don't enforce a bedtime. It just doesn't, especially with my adult daughter, like that's not going to work, right? And teenagers tend to perk up like later in the night. Like that's when they want the quality time. Or this really changed for me too when my daughter had a job. Her first job was at Dairy Queen and they closed late. So then we had to arrange to go pick her up. And it's like, oh my gosh, my whole sleep schedule was just messed up because my preference, my ideal with sleep is that I would be kind of lights out at 9:30 and then wake up. I'm more of a morning person, wake up early. And for a while, like that wasn't working anymore. I couldn't, as my children were growing and changing, the things that worked in the past were not working for me in the current day. And yet there is like part of that like kung fu death grip where I'm like, no, I don't want this to change. Like I want to go to bed when I want to go to bed. I want to wake up when I want to wake up. But I felt like what the Lord was saying to me in that was like, it's okay to change. Because for me, what waking up earlier in the morning meant is that I could I could have time with him and I could work out all before breakfast and going to school. But staying up later and trying to do that, it wasn't good. I felt sleep deprived. I would push off doing the workouts because I was just like, I'm just too tired. I don't have the energy and all of that. So all that to say, sometimes we need to recognize when God is moving us into a new season and to release that grip and just being more open-handed and open-minded as to what he is calling us into and what we can bring with us that's worked in the past and things that we just need to let go of and shift. And I know there will be another season of change too when my kids leave the house or when they become, even if they are living at home and they're adults, like where I can go back to what my preferred routine is. But right now I am in this season of, this is reality. I feel like he has me in this state of just being more flexible with what my time looks like, so that I can focus more on how can I be present in those relationships, and then just trusting that he'll help me work those other pieces out too. So I want to leave you with a couple questions as well, just to consider for where the Lord has you now. Like, are you in a place of stability? And if you are, that's amazing. Like, then you can just kind of tuck this away in the back of your mind for when you start to notice kind of things are shaking and God may having you move to a transition. But if you know you are actively in a state of transition now, in going from something that was old to going to something new, or you're firmly in the new, and there's some of like there's some sort of resistance that you have going on, these questions will be helpful. So first question is, what are you clinging to that the Lord wants you to release? Okay, so you may want to write that down and just in your quiet time journal that out. What are you clinging to that the Lord wants you to release? And often we know that we're clinging to something because literally there's this tension in our body, and it's like I think you'll know it. Because there's probably something that God has been asking you to do, and your response is to pull back, or it's like no, I don't want to resist that, but it keeps coming up, and then maybe you're hearing it, maybe this video is even like confirmation, like, oh man, God has been telling me to let go something, and I haven't been wanting to do that. So if he's asking you to let go of something, you got to let it go. Like, literally lay it down and trust that if he wants you to pick it up again at some point, he will do that. He will let you know. And then thinking too about what new maybe framework might he be inviting you into? So what new maybe rhythms and routines or even mindsets might he be inviting you into or asking you to take on that are going to help you to grow into this new season? And what he's bringing to mind now is even one of the scriptures that we shared earlier this month, which was about the wineskins, about how you don't put new wine into old wineskins, because then when that new wine expands, it will burst the old wineskin. So that is why we need to learn this rhythm of having a, I always like to call it a flexible framework, having a rhythm and routines that work with the current season, but being open to the new things that he's doing, and being open to transitioning that. And some of the things that worked for us in the past just will not fit with the new season. So hopefully that was helpful for you. I would love to hear, like, what's your biggest takeaway from this? And if if this is something you're like, I need some help, like, processing through this, or I'm not sure what he's calling you into, reach out to Aaron or I, and we can help you with that. If you're in the membership, that is a good thing to bring into the coaching call. If you're not in the membership yet, and you just want some help processing through that, let us know. We are here for you. All right, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Bye.